Good morning. Let me just get I have a few of you here. If someone could tell me if they hear me just by giving me a wave. Thank you, Susan, for volunteering to do that. Happy Saturday, everyone. And thank you for joining me today. It's been a year since I've done something like this. This is the third annual Vibe Open House for lipedema awareness. I'm sure many of you are aware of this condition. Many of you are not. Hello. I so far see that I have a comment from Selena, Suzanne, Amy. For any of you joining me today that are not aware, I'm giving a machine away at the end of this. So to be entered to win, I wish everybody could attend all sessions all the time. But one of the big things with these is very often these are just given away in the US. Life Pro Fitness has been more than generous in supporting many of my initiatives, in particular with my fat disorders group. So if you are wanting to be entered to win the Life Pro waiver that I'll be giving away at the end of today's session, to be entered, all you have to do is make a comment. And to qualify to win, you need to be a resident in either Canada, the US, or the UK. And I've timed this session that hopefully everyone in those areas can join me. My glasses have spots. Bear with me. So for those of you that are joining me, Life Pro was kind enough to share this event with their group as well. So on the awareness piece, one of the biggest things that our community, the fat disorders community struggles with is that these conditions actually exist. I want to get into just a couple of stats before I get into some detail as to what lipedema is. I've done a few sessions this week interviewing some amazing folks in our group, and I will be posting these throughout the week upcoming, some of the interviews that I've done, but I always like to look up stats. And one of the things I see with lipedema this year is approximately 1 in 9 women are dealing with lipedema. And to give you a comparative stat, 1 in 9 people in the US are dealing with diabetes. So it's that common. If you went into a drugstore or into a doctor's office, diabetes is very, very well known. But I can't say the same is the case for lipedema. Everybody's still commenting here. Hello, Mary Liz. Hello, Selena from Alberta as well. I'm in Didsbury. I've got Kim. If you guys are just joining me and you want to be entered to win the waiver at the end of this, please just make a comment. And for those of you that are here with a diagnosis of lipedema, it might be interesting to make a comment as to what your diagnosis is. It's rarely just one thing, but make sure that if you do want to be entered to win the Life Pro waiver vibration plate, you need to reside in Canada, the US, or the UK. Just make a comment and I will do a draw at the very end to let you know who that winner is. So we're here today to talk about a condition called lipedema. And I just wanted to pull up an article from my session. I did a session earlier this month on Life Pro's page. They're so supportive, as I said, about just spreading the word. And, you know, many of their clients are likely dealing with this without knowing. What is lipedema? It's also known as a painful fat disorder. The name of my group is called Vibration for Fat Disorders. And for those of you that have a diagnosis, you know, I understand we don't really like referring to it as a fat disorder, but that technically is what it is. And there's so many folks out there that are unaware of these conditions that when they're on the internet looking for things, you know, they're looking for things like painful fat, lumpy fat, you know, can't lose the fat. So until we kind of understand the terminology, it's hard to navigate through the internet to the better information. And part of what today is about is not only to bring some awareness to this condition, but there's a lot of really good groups, my group and many others that cater and share information about these conditions. So lipedema is also known as a painful fat disorder. It is a medical condition and it's characterized by unusual fat growth on the body shape that primarily affects females. Lipedema fat typically appears in the lower body, although it can occur in the upper, but the vast majority of cases will present in the lower extremities. Initially, both legs will have similar shape. They may become irregular or asymmetrical over time. Fat may also appear, as I said, on the arms and other body parts. A fat from lipedema can be exceptionally painful to touch. So this is one of those things where it's hard to understand unless you're dealing with it. And unfortunately, a lot of the people in this community are dismissed or misdiagnosed in a lot of cases. They tend to bruise easily or cause pain even without being touched. It can just be painful. Not all women experience pain with this condition, although it is common. Pain can be reduced or eliminated by self-care and other treatments that are available. And you want to make sure you know what you're dealing with, as does the doctor if you're looking at some surgeries and things like that. Lipedema is classified as a loose connective tissue disorder. In the past, it was commonly referred to as a fat disorder. Recent research shows that lipedema is more accurately described as a disorder of the subcutaneous loose connective tissue. This is the layer that separates the skin from the muscles. This includes the fat, the adipose cells, and their supporting structures and other compounds. I want to touch very briefly on a term that sounds very similar, but is not the same thing. Very, very commonly, many people have heard of lymphedema. Lymphedema is different than lipedema, although it's not uncommon to have both. Lipedema is the abnormal accumulation of excess fat. It comes from damage to the lymphatic system, and the fluid itself accumulates within the tissues where it can cause pain, swelling, all kinds of things. As I said, it is possible to have both lymphedema, as well as obesity. Combinations of this, are not uncommon, and there's other types of fat disorders, Durkheim's disease, and there's other symptoms. And one of the big things that you'll see with Durkheim's, but not uncommon to lipedema as well, are lymphomas, where within the fat or on within your body, these hard, painful lumps of fat. They're benign, but very commonly they can only be removed by surgery, which is very invasive. And when you're dealing with all these other things of pain and commonly bruising, it's hard to go through these surgeries when you have this condition as well. The downside of the surgeries is it's not uncommon for these things to resurface over time. So that's the end of my encyclopedia definition to a degree. Anyone who's out there joining me today, please have your voice on mute. If I had everybody set up to mute to begin with, I'm not hearing any issues now, but I do expect a number to turn out for this call. If you're just joining us and you're here to enter for the waiver, please make sure you make a comment, and you need to be reside in Canada, the US, or the UK to qualify for that. So that was my little spiel about lipedema. Why am I so involved in lipedema? I kind of discovered this condition about 5 years ago. I was fortunate enough to attend the FDRS in Dallas, Texas, in the US, where I had known Dr. Karen Herbst prior to going, but I had no idea how much I was going to learn over the course of the next 3 to 4 days in Dallas. So I was fortunate enough to meet many of you, and I've kind of been crazy about spreading the word ever since. There's, as I said, 1 in 9 women that are dealing with this condition. I had many clients back in my studio that were doing the work, they were eating the right things, and they just didn't seem to be getting the results that I would expect. So, there were clues that I saw back then, not really realizing the condition had existed. Up here in Canada, it's even a little bit more non-existent. In the US, it was 2 years ago, Dr. Herbst and a large team of her colleagues published the standard of care for lipedema. So in the US, there is a standard of care outlined, but the downside of that is the understanding behind this condition. Still, it's going to take some time. Many of our group members have gone into their doctors or their care providers. I've got this standard of care, and to a degree, they are still dismissed. It's obesity, it's whatever it is. So it's unfortunate, but it's going to take a lot of sharing, a lot of caring, and some awareness to get these conditions mainstream. Okay, so I'm going to get into the bigger part of why we're here today. My specialty and my background, of course, is as a vibration plate training specialist. I know a heck of a lot more about the machines than I probably need to sometimes. But you know, I've been obsessed with this since my own health journey. About 20 years ago, I got into these machines. I had to lose some weight. I was getting ready for some knee surgery. I was looking at a partial replacement on my left knee after some sporting and dancing at a Christmas party. To be honest, I dislocated my knee and it just wasn't the same. But I was a little bit of a bigger girl then, and I did need to lose some weight. So my first vibration plate was a very expensive German medical device called a VibroGym. A VibroGym in today's world would set you back probably about $12,000 to $15,000 US. Many of you around the world would know them today as power plate. So I started as a vertical vibration trainer. There are a couple of different movement types that have been heavily researched. If you're not aware, there is a massive body of scientific studies supporting a variety of benefits and applications for vibration plates. But there are two primary movement types that have been discovered. So the first that I kind of talked about is vertical or lateral. The entire surface of the plate moves up and down. And on a vertical style plate, there's a couple of different factors. The speed or the frequency that you are moving, how much you're moving up or how fast you're moving is a much higher factor than other styles. But the amount that you're moving up and down, which we refer to as amplitude, so each time the plate moves you, there's a distance. And on a vertical style plate, they tend to have higher speeds and frequencies and much lower displacement. A machine can only move so far, so fast, just like your muscles. The other side of the equation, which is primarily what I coach, I am certified internationally as both a vertical and an oscillating trainer. But in my experience in my studio personally for 10 years, working with many of you over the years, more people prefer the second type, which is oscillating. Oscillating moves side to side like a teeter-totter. It mimics how you walk across the floor. So for most of my clients and in my experience, I was fortunate enough to have the best of the best. Over time, I had examples and still to this day own some of the best platforms in the world. But movement is the first thing that you should be considering. So there's lots of different plates. All these manufacturers are going to be telling you why they're the best and blah, blah, blah. But it's movement type. You'll have a preference one over the other. The vast majority, like 99.9% of the machines out there are oscillating for a reason. More people prefer how they feel. So when you get on this machine, it's a personal experience, how it feels to you, what you're dealing with. With most people, they prefer oscillating. It's less buzzy on the head. Depending on your foot or your hand distance, you've got a little bit more control over the intensity as a user. And I'll get into that in a bit more detail in my demo here briefly. The other side of the equation is accessibility. So, you know, depending on where you're living, vibration machines are a little bit more mainstream than they used to be. So most countries in the world, whether it's on Amazon, eBay, you can get access to these machines. And if you don't have access to some of the machines that I recommend, there's many that are very similar, but I want you looking for oscillating. Other types out there are lateral, pulsation. There's lateral is where the machine moves side to side. Pulsation is very similar to vertical, but much more mild. And many of these new movements and some of the features have been driven by you guys, the consumer. You know, I like this, but I wish it felt like that. Or, you know, I like this, but I wish it moved this way. So manufacturers are not medical companies doing research. So you've got your vibration machines out there with funding, getting research, doing the science, and then you've got the consumer market. In the last 10 to 15 years, the consumer market has brought a ton of different vibration plates and other types of technologies, red light compressions to the market. And because they're more mainstream and they're being produced of, you know, greater volume, there's more selection, more variety available to you, the consumer, at much less cost. Some of the performance on the vibration machine side does not, it's not as intense, or some of the frequency ranges don't go as high as some of the medical devices. But there's a ton of evidence, experience. A lot of my clients, the total feedback is, hey, Jewel, can I just get you to put your speaker on mute there for me, hon? I think I'm hearing your puppy in the background. But it really does boil down to, in my experience, regardless of whether you're on a $50 machine, a $10,000 machine, instructed properly, most people have a positive experience on these machines. And if you've had an unpleasant experience, part of the reason I exist in some of my groups is, if you're dealing with a deficiency or you're recovering from an injury, you're not dealing with a baseline body. And the common thing that we do when we buy a device, we open the book and we follow those manufacturers' recommendations, but the recommendations are a universal, trying to guide the mass public. That may not be the best starting point for you. And the biggest mistake we make on these machines is, we go too long, or it feels so good. We try too many things. And as I said, if you're dealing, especially with lipedema, fatigue is a very common symptom that presents itself not only throughout the course of your day, but very commonly exercise can fatigue you. So there's other advantages to these plates I'll get into as well on the demo. But there are machines in most countries, lots of different brands. If you're looking at something outside of what I'm recommending here today, feel free to drop me a message, and I'd be happy to take a quick look and give you some insight. Spending more doesn't always mean that you're getting more. Other things to look for in a company is what's their warranty like if you do have a problem? Are they going to be there if you have a breakdown? These are mechanical things that plug into the wall, and from time to time, they do need a service. Sometimes, there's issues with the machine. Sometimes it's related to what you're doing on the machine and overdoing things. So, whether you're spending, like I say, $50 or $10,000, you want to make sure that not only are you buying, a decent product, but somebody's going to be there on the other end of the phone if you do have questions down the road. So I'm going to jump very briefly to a quick demo. Then I'm going to come back. As it is an open house, I want to give you guys lots of time to ask me questions. Again, for anybody just joining us that is here to enter the draw, please make sure that you make a comment. I will be drawing a name at the end of the session, and you need to reside in Canada, the US, or the UK to win this machine. Mary Liz, excellent point about customer service. You know what, as I've gotten older, it's, I don't mind paying a couple bucks more for service. You get what you pay for to a degree. And I know a lot of you come to me and say, oh, I want to buy on Amazon, and, can I get a deal through Amazon? And many of you through Prime and other arrangements, you do get deals through Amazon. But, sometimes it's not always fun trying to get help through Amazon. If you're elderly and you're not too technically inclined, like a lot of my clients, or maybe you're just not technically inclined, I'm the type of person that likes to pick up the phone and talk to somebody. So these are just things to consider. If you're looking at a machine, do they have a website, or are they just, there's a million brands being sold online, but there's not necessarily a company behind them. So who am I talking about when it comes to that? Well, of course, Life Pro today has been kind enough to support this event, and they've given me a machine to gift to one of you at the end of the session today. Why do I like Life Pro over the bazillion other machines that I have access to in Canada and US? Well, in the consumer world, affordability, especially in the last couple of years, has become huge. They have a variety of different plates depending on how many bells and whistles you want to look at, but their base models are very affordable, very good little pivotal units or oscillating style movement, as I talked about. And they have a lifetime warranty. So if there is an issue, they're there standing behind their product. They do sell on Amazon, but I recommend buying through them directly. Give them your business directly. And I do have a discount code through one of my groups for 10% off that I will put in the comments for anyone looking for deals. But, for a couple $300, you can get into a base model that's going to do a lot of good. Why are vibration plates good for lipedema? Lipedema, if, a lot of questions I get in my group are, what's the best plate for lipedema? Or what's the best setting for lipedema? Or how long should I do something for lipedema? And it's really not so much the condition that you have. It's more about you personally, where physically you're starting, what your overall goals are, short-term, long-term, and progressing towards them. What a vibration plate is an environment. It's an environment that accelerates the benefits of exercise that you would normally be doing on the floor, whether it's a squat or a push-up. It also reduces the amount of impact you are exposed to. The movements are very under 6-7 millimeters of movement. It's less impact than walking across the floor. But because you got this fast micro movement, shaking your muscles about, sometimes we feel that there's more going on than passive exercise. And the beauty of the way that these machines, especially the oscillating style, moves your body is they are awesome for moving high volume of lymph and circulation. So for those of you in the lipedema community, whether you have bigger goals of fitness or weight loss or, building better bones, the basic need of moving lymphatic fluid is the common thread between all of these conditions. And with the way that lymphatic fluids congest throughout your systems, a vibration plate is a very, very easy way to offer yourself some self-care, just to manage the pain, get some fluid going. But if you do have more discipline and you're the type of person that's going to invest a little bit more time and effort, you can do fitness on the plate. So whether you're getting feel good or fitness results is very dependent on what you personally are doing on the plate and how regularly. So I'm going to get to the demo here very quick. Again, for those of you joining me, please make a comment if you'd like to be entered to win this machine today if you are in Canada, the US, or the UK. LifePro has been very generous. They sell through Amazon in Canada and the US, and through them directly is where I deal in Canada. Hang on, I want to see if I can get it to me so I can see myself better. Hang on, view. How do I make this bigger so I see me? Chats. Well, I'm just gonna have to see if I'm on. You guys can let me know if my head's cut off here. Okay, I'm a one-woman show today, so all right. Plugging my machine back in. Okay, so for those of you that want to join me today, today I'm using the Rumblex Plus model. I prefer a flat plate style. There are plates that have more of a curved profile to them. If you are a little bit more athletic, if you want a little bit more challenge, you may enjoy that plate style. The vast majority of my clients are dealing with medical issues. So I want you working as natural and as functional as possible. And a flat plate surface is my preference for that. I want you, if you are dealing with chronic issues or you're unable to bear weight or you fatigue easily, you'll notice I'm sitting on a bar height stool. And this is a really easy way just to get your body moving in the lower extremities. But if you're unable to stand for long durations or stand at all, this is a very easy way to get started. Now, when you're using a vibration plate for the first time, today what I'm talking about is in the oscillating mode, because there's a couple of things I want you to understand that don't necessarily apply with other movement styles. The big thing is the amplitude or the intensity, how much the machine is moving you. I've got this on the beginning speed of 1 because you'll see it better on camera. Normally, if you're starting out, unlike a vibration machine is unlike a treadmill or an elliptical. Very commonly in many of the forums that I participate in, a lot of people will say, well, just start slow. And I think what we should be saying is start conservatively. Starting slow in the form of a speed is usually how we understand that. And if you're just doing a slow speed, it's really choppy. The really, really slow speeds, the bottom third range of your machine are more about balance and stability. There's certain benefits you're going to get with any speed. It's just the nature of exercise, and it's the nature of using these machines. But if you're dealing with poor mobility, lots of pain, I do not recommend using the slow speeds to start out. I want you bringing it up to a mid, even a higher range. And I think you'll find the faster that the plate gets moving, the more comfortable it will feel, the more tolerable, less choppy. It's going to feel smoother. The other adjustment is the distance between your feet. So if you bring your feet closer to the center, you reduce the amount that you're moving. Think about a teeter-totter. If you're in the middle, you're not moving as much as if you're on the outside edges. If your feet are very wide, you're shaking much more. And what's the best place for you really depends on you, your tolerance, what feels best, and what you're doing and wanting to accomplish on the machine. Functionally, I prefer that unless you're doing some big old martial art moves or some specific training, I don't want your feet further than hip width apart. So my feet are hip width apart. I'm going to bring my speed up to a mid-range. This model goes to 60 speeds. So I'm going to bring that up to about the 40 range. And I'm going to show you some variations here. So if you are unable to stand for long periods and you're trying to get some more, hang on, my machine's on top of something here. There. If you're trying to get a little bit more upper body lymph movement and circulation, here's a variation that you can try. Just lean over and put your elbows on your knees and you become a part of the equation. If that's too aggressive, you can just put your hands and you'll feel a little bit of movement up through the arms, the shoulders. Maybe you're not dealing with lymphedema, but you've got some neck tension or, some carpal tunnel or some circulation, some Raynaud's. There's a million reasons we need to get some action up into the arms, but not necessarily have the ability to get down on the ground and take advantage of applying the upper body directly, which is something that you can do. Many of my folks dealing with lipedema or some of the other fat disorders that do deal with chronic pain, lack of energy, they may use their machine multiple times throughout the day, just as a self-care tool. But it doesn't mean it's always a 10 to 15 minute workout. If you are dealing with chronic conditions, you sit for long periods at a desk or just because you have to physically, this is a great way to use your machine for 2 to 3 minutes, just really whenever your body tells you you need a fix. It's going to give you energy. So for those of you that do deal with fatigue, less is more. Try a couple minutes, see how you feel. You can always do more later. What I don't want you doing, especially if you're a new user, is going for the manufacturer. Well, the machine goes for 10 minutes or it goes for 15 minutes. That doesn't mean that that's the best starting point for you. If you haven't done a walk in a decade, would you go for 5 miles or would you maybe start by going around the block? So I would suggest 2 to 3 minutes as a spot treatment just to get some lymph and circulation going in the lower legs, boost some energy, and it will help manage pain over time. How often can you use a machine? It's an impossible question for me to answer. If you're using it for just feel good and passive use, how often are you allowed to go for a walk? It really depends on you personally. If you are doing fitness and you are pushing yourself to fatigue and you're putting effort forth, you probably only need once a day. You wouldn't go to the gym 3 times a day. So for those of you that are looking for more benefit, you want to get stronger, you want to lose weight, I would encourage you progress to standing. And if you want to lose weight and get stronger, it's as simple as just pushing yourself a little bit. So a squat is going to give you more physical fitness gains than just standing. But the whole time you're standing here, you're still getting the lymph. You're still getting the circulation. You're getting bone density because you're bearing your weight. You're improving your balance because your body's trying to stabilize yourself on this machine. So there's a few things that are happening regardless. You do not have to do special things. One of the things that I recommend is, instead of just standing here, you can do other things. Wiggle around, touch your toes. Do what you feel comfortable doing in this environment. The stool is a good thing to have handy from a safety perspective. If you are dealing with poor mobility, poor balance, you might want this here if you need to take a break. Just, you could take a combination of standing and sitting. That's a really good way to strengthen the legs. I could give you a million different variations on how to use your machine. I've got lots of videos on YouTube and on my page that get into more specific treatments. But if I were to give you the perfect recipe just for lipedema, not that I like answering that general question, but the biggest advantage to using a vibration plate for lipedema is the ability for it to move lymph without practically any effort on your part. And the big problem with lipedema is it does become challenging over time as you start accumulating weight, as your mobility declines. You know, traditional activities aren't always possible, or they're not kind. Many of you are dealing with hypermobility, joint, EDS, all kinds of different joint deficiencies where even walking can present a challenge. So if you are doing other activities, or you'd like to be doing other activities, but they're just not kind to your body, sometimes my users use a plate as a precursor to that activity. So for example, many of my ladies with fat disorders love swimming in the pool. It's a great exercise for them, a good activity, but many of them will use the machine for a short period as a warm-up prior to the pool, or for a couple 3 minutes for recovery after the fact, just to give that lymph a little bit of extra. So how you use it is really going to be driven by your own curiosity and skill set to a degree. But as you progress and improve, and if you use this consistently, you will see results. I don't know how else to say it. It's on you using this thing regularly. Even if you're not doing exercise and you're just doing some of the passive suggestions I've made here, you're going to start moving and feeling better. And if you start moving and feeling better, you may progress back to those activities. This can be a way to recover if you are overdoing it or presents things after you've done those activities. For many of you that are just trying to manage your day, another area I wanted to just target a little bit is the hips and the low back. So regardless of whether you may have lipedema or not, as we get older and live our lives, these are areas that can cause tension and deter us from doing exercise because it hurts, or there's a deficiency there, and I'm going to pay for it for 3 days. So I wanted to show you a very simple variation while you're standing for your back. I'm turning this way because I want to have my stool. But to get into the low back, your knees are not locked. They are just undone. And instead of just standing, just lean forward at a 45-degree angle. Your arms are hanging. You can put them at your sides. If you need some stability, you can rest them on this stool. But you're going to feel in this position a nice movement in the low back, that lumbar area, the hips. It's a really great way to loosen things up. You may find throughout the course of your day that it's just an area of tension. If you're sitting too much, I can guarantee you've got some fatigue in there. And this is another variation that I like to do, after I've done my squats. I kind of use this as my rest period. I'm prone to lots of sciatic issues. I sit too darn much. But this is a really good way to just loosen up those hips and the core, perhaps before you get into other exercises. And that might be 30 seconds to a minute. Extreme opposite end of the scale, before I get to some questions. If you're just joining me today and you are here to possibly win a Life Pro waiver, please be sure that you make a comment. I will be drawing a name at the end of the session after I get through questions as to who's taking a Life Pro waiver home. You need to reside in Canada, the US, or the UK to enter today. So if range of motion allows, other things that you can do is apply body parts directly to the plate. You can put your calves on the machine. Oh, I just hit a button. And I hope you guys can see me okay here. I just want to make sure. I'm going to come down a bit with my camera. Okay. So if range of motion allows, and you tend to have localized swelling in the legs, it's very, very common, the ankles, back of the knees. If you have lipedema, there's very commonly a little pocket of fluid or fat that develops in the back of the knees. That's a really easy indicator that I see with a lot of our clients. The legs in this one I'm targeting are just the calves. So for this one, your feet are just hanging off, the calves are on the machine. I prefer doing my massage or my direct stuff at, again, a mid to higher speed. When you're standing on the plate, and bearing your own weight is a little different than sitting down in a passive position like this. If range of motion allows, you can massage anywhere below the waist. So this is the calves. If you have trouble knees, as I do, I love adding, little rollers or little things to target certain areas directly. You can move up and hit the back of the thighs, depending on your height. My butt cheeks are kind of just hanging off the back. My knees are bent, and this is a really good way to get into the quads or the back of the hamstrings. If you do carry fluid, if you've got skin surface issues there, you can put your bum directly on the machine. Not only is this great for skin tone, and now that I'm sitting on it, I can feel that movement in the hips and the low back. So it's a really good way to address tension seated on the machine, but you're also getting the benefit still of that lymph, that circulation. If you're finding it's too shaky on the head, it's never harmful. It's never harmful to your head. I don't like people saying that. It's maybe uncomfortable, and it might take some getting used to, but it's not going to harm you. If you're finding it's just not for you and it's not comfortable, just lean forward a little bit and get the angle out of your spine, and you'll feel that head vibe almost completely dissipate. For a lot of my ladies with lipedema, or just my folks with chronic issues that are unable to do push-ups or some of the upper body stuff that I do, take your hands and you can add them to this position. So while you're sitting down, take your hands, palm down, and just tuck them under kind of the bottom of the butt cheek where it meets the thigh. And you'll see and hear in my voice, by putting my hands in contact with the plate, I'm getting upper body movement in the neck, the shoulders, and the arms. This is the laziest way that I can show you to get some relief. This is a common one a lot of my folks do. If range of motion allows, you could do this for a minute or two. It's not uncommon for me to do this for a minute or two between calls if I'm just getting a little tight. It's great for those wrists if you're dealing with carpal tunnel and you just can't support any weight. This is a really good way just to get some influence and some stimulation into those hands. And there's a lot of other options. I've done some massage sessions. You can massage anywhere below the waist if your range of motion allows. The very last one I wanted to show you is a variation. If you do have upper body goals and your range of motion allows you to do this, you could also do push-ups. Again, this is just an environment. If you haven't done a push-up on the floor in the last decade or two, I wouldn't recommend this being your starting point. The biggest issue I have with upper body exercises with my clients, especially my ladies, is our technique isn't always there. And that simply means that you're not doing these types of exercises regularly. Maybe there's deficiencies or problems with the wrists that have held you back from doing these types of things. So if you are starting out for the first time, don't make it a hard push-up. I'm just on my knees, not a lot of body weight in. And a big tip with upper body is your line of sight. So my hands, if they are in line with my head, I get the most head shake. So what you want to do with a push-up, if you're starting out, you want to just push your body slightly forward so that the shoulders are above the hands. And like I say, I don't have a whole lot of body weight going on here. It's just to get used to how it feels. You're going to feel a little bit more in the head than if you're standing, obviously. But just like when you're standing, if you bring your hands closer or further apart, you're going to change the strength or the intensity of the vibration. I recommend a mid to high speed when you're first starting out. And if range of motion allows you to do this, this might be a little bit more beneficial to get some direct toning into the arms, to move some lymph in the upper body. But if you do these types of exercises now, or you want to, and it's something you want to progress towards on the machine, you are only limited by your imagination and your range of motion. There's not many floor-based exercises that cannot be performed on a vibration plate. They are primarily a push based, they're not a pull, they're a push and a weight-bearing activity. And if you're looking for specific exercises or what should I be doing, many of those exercises would be very similar to what you are doing or should be doing now. And if you've never had a program outlined for you and you do have specific fitness goals, you may want to talk to a trainer at your local gym or someone in your circle to help you derive exercises that are best utilized for your needs. all that the plate is an environment that accelerates those exercise benefits, can potentially reduce the amount of time that you spend exercising, and it also dramatically reduces effort and strain on your part. So this is a tool that complements those exercises and makes them more effective versus it being, you know, a specific set of the exercises that you do just for the machine. This is just an environment. So I'm going to turn that off and come a little closer as soon as I find my glasses right here. My ramblings. Okay. And I'm seeing a few names here. Again, if you're just joining me and you'd like to be entered for the giveaway, please make sure that you make a comment and let me know. Not let me know, but I need to make sure that you are in Canada, the US, or the UK for the giveaway. And it looks like I've got quite a few folks here today. This is excellent. Hang on here. I'm just looking at. Okay, so what I'd like to do at this point, and I'm going to turn this over to the question part, so the open, the question and answer period. Many of you know me from my group if you are a member, but if you're just joining me for the first time and you've never heard of lipedema in your life, and you know that maybe there's some bells ringing for you about yourself or someone that you may know, please feel free to ask me a question. If you have something specific to vibration plates, feel free to ask that as well. I've set up in the way that I have today so that if you need me to show you a move or something, I'm available to do that. So I can't see everyone on my screen because there's too many of you here so far. But does anyone have a question that you wanted to ask me today? And if you do, I will ask that you just unmute yourself and go ahead and ask me that question if you have one. Or is everybody just here to win the machine? That could be too, you know. I would be. Mary Beth, yes. I love your honesty. Well, let me see who all I have here.
Debbie.
Hi, Sherry. How are you?
Good, thanks. You?
Good. Happy Saturday.
Thanks, you too. If I'm wanting to do like more, I'm still a lower level of activity, but
Okay.
I used to do a lot more. If I want to do a higher level of activity later, is there more benefits for the Rumblix than the waiver?
You know, yes and no. You know, there's never the perfect machine for every scenario. I will say in the Rumblix, what Sherry's referring to is a combo model. It's got a few different movement types and it's got a few more features. So one of the machine I was using today was the Plus. So first of all, the combo machines offer oscillating, they offer lateral, and they offer pulsation. So you get different features, but the actual oscillating, the coaching that I do, the performance between the waiver, let's say, and the Rumblix, just in that mode is very, very similar. Like if you're buying it thinking you're getting more performance, you're getting more features. So I sometimes speak differently to what the manufacturers suggest because I am coming from the science and the research side of this. Different results are going to be more a progression in your positions, Sherry. So, I mean, if room allows, if budget allows, if you've got a dedicated space, I do love my Rumblix model. But what I find with a lot of my clients, if you're looking at moving it around, if you've got a small space or you're going to be using it in a couple of different spaces, some of the combo machines, because there's more movement types, there are more motors, there is more weight. So my Plus model, which is the lightest of all the Rumblix, is 38 pounds. So sometimes that's a consideration. If you want to progress and be more athletic and things improve to allow you to do that, Sherry, I would say your better results are going to be in making your positions more difficult, adding some weights. You're going to see better benefits that way. The machine's not going to do all the work for you. But if you have the budget and you have the space and you're not planning on moving it around, I do love my Rumblix models. I like some of those other features for different reasons. But many, like I say, end up going with the waiver or the mini because they want the ability to move it around. And they're quite a bit lighter. So that, you know, that's not the black and white answer, but I hope that makes sense to you.
Yep, thank you.
No problem. Anyone else? Or did you have another question, Sherry?
I have a quick question.
Hi, Becky. What's up?
Hi. I'm wondering, I wrote it in the chats, but I just was wondering, I've probably been I have a waiver, a mini, and I love it.
I love it.
It's been about
so cute.
3 weeks. Yeah, it's so wonderful. I'm just wondering, with lipedema, is it possible that the appearance gets worse before better as you're loosening some of this? Because that's kind of what I'm seeing.
Yeah, 100%. And I will say,
awesome.
It's not a bad
awesome
thing.
That it's leaving my body, but awesome.
But it's not uncommon to kind of overdo it when you first start because it just feels so darn good. But as you start moving and you know, if there's congestion in the lymphatics, it's not uncommon, you know, in the first 3-4 weeks to see an increase, a decrease, you know, maybe the swelling's moving elsewhere as the system starts improving. And if you've been carrying a lot of excess swelling for a long time and it starts dissipating, the skin surface itself can look like kind of wrinkly and deflated, if you will. So everybody's a little bit different in how, you know, results present. But I will say another thing is the itchiness. I got to bring that up right now. If you first start on a machine, not everyone goes through this, but it's not uncommon to feel like a little bit of a pins and the needles or an itchiness, sometimes an unbearable itchiness in certain areas. You're not having an allergic reaction, but as that lymph and circulation gets moving, it's not uncommon for the first couple of weeks to notice that sensation. It will dissipate. What I will say, Becky, with the skin tone, even lipedema aside, a lot of my weight loss clients in general that, you know, have been carrying excess weight for a long time and then drop the weight, the skin takes a little longer. You know what I mean? So if you're losing swelling, if you're losing weight, the skin takes a little bit longer to tighten up, if you will. And as range of motion improves, if it's not working so good for you now, a lot of the massage stuff, when I first got into this years and years ago, originally the massage stuff wasn't for swelling. It was many of the Germans did it for like cellulite and toning and skin tone applications. So that was kind of the premise of where that started. So long term, you know, you will see an improvement. If range of motion doesn't allow, even standing, you know, the skin's an organ, you know, so we don't think of it as an organ. It's also a big way in how we detoxify, you know, sweating and these types of things. So you may notice, you know, anything from a change in the skin texture, a little bit of a breakout, you know, pimples in certain areas as toxins start coming through the surface. But if it's the saggy skin or the swelling's changing places, that's progress. But keep in mind, it's probably taking you a while to get to where we are. So it's probably going to take you a little while to start normalizing and seeing consistent changes. But don't be spooked if you see some dramatic changes in the tone, the size, the area, or the saggy skin. I see that really, really commonly, Becky, and not just lipedema, but more, you know, I do see it a lot with it.
To just keep at it. That's fascinating. Thank you.
How's your range of motion?
I'm good.
So you could get down on the ground and do some of that stuff?
Yeah. Yep. I do the hands. I sit on it. Yeah. Yes, I am.
There's a huge library of my ramblings under the media files, and there's one where I show you how to massage everywhere below the waist. Oh, and again, you know, your tummy, your hips. A lot of my ladies, I don't know if Lisa's here today, but she did a post. She's one of my visits coming up this week, but you guys are very common to get the saddlebags, and sometimes those saddlebags can be so uncomfortable. I have seen many have results just laying on those saddlebags or using the massage gun, you know, depending on what your vice is, just to get things moving, because it is a tough area to kind of target.
So tough.
And we can do turns and you can do crunches and these types of things, but you know, some of us have left it too long that those exercises sometimes hurt us more than they help, if you know what I mean. So sometimes that's just a really good way to target it. A lot of my clients with bursitis or even just bone issues, like laying on the hips just to get that relief on the arthritis, if you will. So the skin just happens to be in contact, so it's getting treated as a side effect, if you know what I mean.
Okay. Is there a maximum time? Because I could sit on it all day. It feels so good.
No, really, you know, this is what's really hard. The maximum time thing, and I'm just gonna, it's probably the one topic that most vibration people, manufacturers avoid. And I tend to go after the things that everybody else avoids. There's a big misunderstanding on the time thing, and anybody that's giving you time parameters, how do I put this? It depends what you're doing on the machine. So I said a little bit earlier, if you're just using it for a minute or two, to move some lymph, how often doesn't matter, but sometimes, I have people that will massage for an hour or two at a time. I can't not make you do that. But I do say, if all you can really do is go longer and longer and longer. Ideally, a couple, 3 minutes per body part is really all you need. Do some people use their machine for 2-3 hours a day? I'd be lying if I said no. What I will say, if you're going to be doing lots of massage, which tends to be the higher speeds, and you're doing more than your preset time, give your machine a break. Keep in mind, you got parts moving, how many times a second, metal parts. If you're with Life Pro, you've got a lifetime warranty, but if you're using your machine 5, 6, 7 hours a day, you're probably going to prematurely wear the machine. So yeah, try to keep it, 10, 15 minutes max per run. And if you are doing more, just give it a couple minutes breather before you get into the next set. I would prefer you get more functional than just go longer and longer. So outside of massage, if you're doing squats, if you're doing fitness type stuff, you should fatigue within a minute, maybe 2 max per position. So if you're not dying after a minute or 2 in a fitness position, make the position itself harder. Anybody that calls me and says, oh yeah, I could do a squat for 10 minutes, I immediately say, well, you're not putting any effort into it. Because I can't squat on the floor for 10 minutes, forget the machine, right? So because I have a bad knee still and a bad attitude sometimes, I make my fitness positions as hard as possible because I want to be done. And I like to spend my longer durations doing the nice stuff. So yeah, it's sometimes it's hard to, say 2 minutes and then all of a sudden beep, your machine's done and it's been 10. Just keep in mind. And the only thing I would caution, the worst thing that's going to happen to you if you go too long on a vibration machine is going to be the same thing that happens if you go for too long of a session at the pool. And if you overdid it, it presents a little bit differently. But if you start noticing increases in swelling or, pain, you're probably overdoing it. Just pay attention to what your body's telling you.
Awesome. Thanks.
So not black and white. Sorry.
Debbie, this is Brenda. I have a question for you.
Hi.
Hey, so I've been doing a bunch of research and watching your YouTube videos, and I did see you had a conversation, I think it was with Dr. Herbst, about how the vibration plate liquefies the lipedema fat.
Those are her words, and if
her words.
Yeah, okay. That was my interview with her 2 years ago for lipedema awareness. Okay.
Yeah, and how it can help kind of pre-using the pump, and how it could possibly benefit that. I didn't find anything research-wise or beyond that, but it makes sense, right?
Well, and a lot of we live in this world, and especially Dr. Herbst more so now. Like she's owned by the research world, and it's good. We need people who are advocating for us. But I'll give you an example with vibration machines. I've been doing this 15 years, and there isn't a study I couldn't show anyone out there, but there's so much more that hasn't been studied that I'm seeing in my experience anyways. Like, I'll give you an example. I have a special needs group with primarily cerebral palsy. I do a lot of pediatric support and rehab. And, everything tells me that certain speeds are the only speeds that are going to improve certain things. I've got little kids on Life Pro waivers that are walking again, that are not having to wear their braces again, and these moms aren't therapists. They're just watching my hokey videos and doing what they can, I think with the liquefying of the fat or the, any of the big claims out there, I think it's time we start embracing the tenure and the experience, because so many things that the research companies tell me, should be happening because it's just a home machine, or this machine can't do it because it wasn't the one in the study.
Right.
I'm still seeing the benefits. And I know sometimes with Dr. Herbst, she's got a couple of different vibration plates. I physically drove one to her house 4 years ago. Long story. Hey, what? I got the invite. I was in the car. But, you know, she's a prime example. I remember when I met her at FDRS, I was there with medical grade equipment, which is much meaner and more expensive than what most of us are using. And I've never personally done a session with her, and there's 200-300 people waiting for the crazy Canadian, you know, to fall on her face. And Karen comes walking right up to the machine, cranks it up to top speed, and just does absolutely everything that I would never do on a machine. And am I going to correct her? No, it's Dr. Herbst. If she wants to ride it for 20 minutes, I get a letter, right? But you know, what we found through, you know, if I don't know if you've never seen Dr. Herbst, she's not the biggest woman out there. She's kind of petite, and the intensity that she took on that machine, she just like, oh yeah.
Well, and I've watched your videos. I've watched your videos in preparation of wanting to buy a machine. So I agree with your concept, and it works the lymphatics. And so I was just curious of kind of that element of it.
I wish there
but
was.
I'm more looking for the lymphatics of it.
I'll give you the honest political answer. The reason there is not a lot of study on the field stuff, it's not profitable to make you feel better. I don't know how, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So improving your own health through activity and food is within your control. It's not a prescription. Okay.
Right.
And if we look at research, companies and organic farmers are not funding research.
Right.
Funding research. You know who you are. So that's
exactly.
And I remember when I first met Karen on the phone, she was like, what studies do you have out there for lymph? We don't. But if we know that lymph moves when we move, it's kind of a logical thing. And I think where the liquefaction, because that's come up a few times, you know, when you're rapidly warming tissues,
it makes sense.
You know what I mean? And what I used to see before I even knew lipedema existed, it's kind of making a comeback 10, 15 years ago when all the light therapy started coming out, and you could go get these treatments, the non-invasive lipo treatments, and spend all this money. I used to have I was vibration machines 14 hours a day, and I used to have a lot of businesses that wanted to incorporate vibration machines as opposed to anyone that's offering this as a service or anyone that's using it, whether you're aware or not, there is a post-exercise component if you are using light therapy for weight loss. You know, you got to get that lymph moving after the treatment. But most of these places didn't want to put in like treadmills and ellipticals, right? So they leave it up to you to walk around the block or walk to your car. The ones that wanted to get better results and follow the book started bringing in vibration machines because they took up less space. You know, they catered to a wider variety of bodies. And what started happening is results started improving. I don't think because it was burning more calories or fat for the 2 or 3 minutes, but I think it was helping that process move more fluid, move more lymph. My record was FDRS in Baltimore. I wish I would have wrote the lady's name down. But by the time I got back to the second FDRS, and everybody knew that these machines took their pain away, by 7 a.m. on the first morning, and I wasn't even set up, I had a lineup out the door because, oh, the machines are here. And I remember one lady, she just wanted to sit on it. And I'm not there to sort of tell you how to take care of yourself unless you're putting yourselves in harm's way. So she just wanted to sit on it. That's fine. She did this for 3 days in the morning of the conference. 11 pounds of pee I got out of that woman in 3 days, just sitting on it. She just was sitting on it for her hips, and then she'd go for this big pee, and it kept happening throughout the course of the day. So it's amazing how just something so passive can move such great capacity. Yeah. And for those of you, I honestly believe obesity fat can be lost. I don't like this mentality that, you can't lose weight because you have lipedema, so you give up. I've seen too many times where people have seen improvement in many, many areas. Everybody's a little different, but the hill you have to climb is a little bit different for everybody. But if this thing can liquefy fat, move fat, whatever it is doing, the results seem to be there, but the consistent,
Whatever the term is, it's the results. And it's,
but, you know, to me, I refer to it as rapid heating of tissues.
Right.
You know, a lot of, on the opposite end, the athletic world has embraced this because it can warm you up, minimize injury, you know, which is also an advantage to us with our bad joints and things too, right? So, and I think really, in my personal opinion, why are the machines so effective? I think more than anything else, we stick with them. I never stuck with anything in my whole life before I got into these machines. And now I teach neurosurgeons. Like, I'm just a mom that has been doing it longer than most. And there's still no school or anywhere that you could go. What's kind of unique about me and my skill set is I kind of lucked out and got into the best of both early on. Most vibration machine companies and trainers are all about this kind of movement or this kind of movement. And they battle it out all day over which is better. In my opinion, results, if the machines as far as performance are similar, the results are going to vary simply based on you, whether you're sticking with it. So what I will say is vertical style machines, the power plates, those type of machines, they're awesome. But just the way that they're constructed, you're going to be investing heavily to get something equivalent to what Life Pro's putting out for $200 to $300. So just because you're spending more doesn't mean you're getting more benefit to what we're specifically talking about. The big reason I recommend using it more frequently throughout the course of the day is kind of what you're talking about, Brenda, is to keep it liquefied, keep it moving. And I think for many of you, if you've been dealing with this condition for some time, I think the pain comes from the stiffness and the hardness and the scar tissue and all the crap that starts coming with that. And many of you, if you've been using, I just want to take advantage and point this out. Many of you that are using a vibration plate now, and then maybe you do go for some surgery, you know, you've done what you can, but you got to get some liposuction or a knee replacement. I've gotten people using the machine the day after surgery with my guidance and many, modifications. But if you're wanting to use a machine after surgery and you've never set foot on one, you haven't gone through all the newbie stuff and the itchy and it's not the best introduction when you're dealing with a recent trauma or surgery. So for those of you that have been using your machines, preparing and getting ready, your level of comfort and understanding is different than if you haven't used a machine to start. So you can always use a machine with the right modifications. And if you don't know the right modifications, maybe that's why I have a page with so many people on it. You're a member of my page, Brenda?
I'm not sure. Facebook. What's the group?
Vibration for Fat Disorders.
I think I am. I'll double check though. Yeah. Okay.
The best place to find me, and I'll take advantage here and point this out too. I hit 7,100 people this week, and that's fabulous. But any of you that have tried to get into my page and answer my questions, I'm like the Gestapo. Like there's ways I ask I don't want this group being just general public, because there are things that are shared that are very private and personal. So I do have a public page, Deb's Vibe. I also have a website, debsvibe.com, because sometimes it's spina bifida or osteoporosis and there's nothing I can't help you with, but the group would become massive. So if you do have someone that you want to listen to me ramble or have access, my public group is Deb's Vibe, and that's where this one was also advertised today. But if you want to be a part of my fat disorders group, you do have to explain to me that you have a reason to be there, just because it's specific to that community. Same with my cerebral palsy for vibration. So if there's a lot of manufacturers and there's a lot of doctors that would love to be in my cerebral palsy page, but I'm not here to promote you, right? So I'm here to share information and I'm here to promote businesses. But if all you want to post is teachers for sale, you're not going to be in the group very long. I'm sure many of you have experience with that.
Thanks, Debbie.
No problem. Thank you, Brenda. You look great, by the way.
I just had a question about
Tammy, do you have a question?
Yes.
Hi.
Those of us with lipedema mostly sometimes too also have the flexi touch or something similar to it.
The lymphopress, those type of things. Yep.
How would you recommend to use that and a vibration plate would be brand new. I've never used one yet, but I've been hearing so many great things about it. But I want to know, if you still do that in the same day too, because it's like an hour. Well, it becomes doing it like a 2-hour process after you get in it and do your therapy. For
And
like
it depends on your suit. I can absolutely talk about that. If you have a vibration machine, first of all, one question I get is, well, what's better, my vibration plate or my Flexi Touch? They are different things, although they both move lymph. Awesome. The advantage of course, the vibration machine is my preference, but the vibration machine is a weight bearing exercise. So you can use it just to move lymph, but the advantage it has, because not everyone can afford Flexi Touches, but if you're using it in complement with it, 100%, do something before. Ideally, just for the exact same reason Brenda and I was talking, to kind of warm up the tissue, get things moving. And many of my clients also use it after. So you can use it prior, you can use it after. It could be a whole workout. Some of my gals do their big workout and then they relax in their lymphopress or their Flexi Touch. Some of them are doing it just because they've got chronic pain and issues and they need to before they sit down for an hour. But anything you could add, 2 to 3 minutes of just standing or getting the legs going is going to help accelerate the benefits. And you'll probably notice more fluid move. And the same reason on the recovery, just give it a little bit more. A lot of my clients, again, use it afterwards because you've been sitting, maybe the hips or the back, just to get rid of the sitting, but to help expedite and move some more of that lymph after you've done that treatment. It's the perfect complement before and after anything, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It kind of, I deal with a lot of medical doctors, and I remember the clinic I worked with in Seattle that does a lot of stuff, for knees and different ailments, and they use a vibration machine prior to injection because they feel the body better receives the injection. The client is more relaxed. There's all kinds of reasons medically that they're using these machines before and after treatments, and it's quicker. At 2-3 minutes as opposed to laying down on a massage table for half an hour, just to give you an idea. But yeah, if you've got the Flexi Touch and you're going an hour, Tammy, minutes before on the machine or after, if that's, and if you did want to do fitness or other things, that's completely up to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Really common in the group, that question, and there's many I know that are using in complement now already.
Hi, this is Carissa. I go to a physical therapist right now, and she has me doing the Hyperdrive G17, and I was wondering which one of the Life Pros would be kind of the equivalent.
I actually, right behind camera, I have the Hypervibe G17 sitting right here. I also have the 14 and the 10. So Hypervibe is a medical grade. So you're not going to find comparable performance in a Life Pro product. Life Pro is, if I were to give you an actual number from a frequency standpoint, any consumer grade machine out there is going to top out at about 14 to 16 hertz. Those hertz are broken down into speeds or levels to give you a little bit more variety. The G17 is capable of 30 hertz. So it's a very, very different device. Many in my group do have Hypervibes. The Hypervibe G17 weighs 170 pounds as well. So there's, again, when you're selecting a machine, it kind of depends on what you're using it for. I would suggest if you are considering a Hypervibe, I can certainly talk with you, or the place that you're going could offer that to you. But from a home perspective, many clients are looking at the Life Pros because they're more affordable. They're lighter, the lifetime warranty. Many clients graduate to some of the medical equipment, but it really depends on you and your budget. The G17 in the US is going to run you about $4,000, just to give you a comparison.
Yeah, I know. I looked it up and I was like, well, that's way out of my budget. So
what I will say about that type of device is it is oscillating. So
okay.
The same type of movement. You, depending on where are you going that you're using that machine in the States?
My physical therapist at Hope Renewed, her name is Diane Pennington.
Oh yeah, I know Diane very well.
Okay.
I probably trained her. I used to be Hypervibe's trainer back in the day. So what she would be, and some of the reason that she would be using that is because of those higher frequencies, it's potentially less time. So if you're using those higher frequencies, I would say a little less time than what you might be doing on from an athletic. It depends what you're doing. But if you're just looking for that basic lymph, the circulation, whatever exercise positions you would be doing would be comparable. But you're not going to get the same frequency range.
Okay.
If you are considering the Hypervibe, talk to Diane directly as well about that. You can tell her I told her that. But if you are, like I say, looking at entry level, many of my, like I own right now 14 different machines, you know, so many, you know, again, if budget or lifestyle is an issue, you know, you might want to consider a Life Pro as a starting point or a second machine, you know, to that. It just really depends on your lifestyle. But yeah, same type of movement.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Hi, Debbie.
Hi to Diane for me. Hi, Kim. How are you?
I'm great, and I have a question, but there are two people that have had their hand up for a really long time, Marianne and Amy, and I don't want to go in front of them, but could you get back?
Okay, if you guys don't mind, Marianne and Amy, because I'm not the Zoom queen, you're what's popped up, so I'll take your question quick, and then I'm going to move to Amy next.
Okay, thanks so much. So I have the Rumblex or Roomblex, however you say it, Plus, and it has the 3 different vibrations. Am I safe just to put it on all 3 and then I know I'm getting the benefit, or are there some things you don't want to do at a certain vibration?
The lateral and the pulsation are added bonuses.
Okay.
They're not nearly, how do I put it? There's other terms behind this, but there's an overall exposure to gravity that we're increasing with these machines. We're increasing G-force, and you're going to get the most in this movement, in the oscillating. I personally do not love the lateral. I have too many with hypermobility. I just don't find it's as kind on joints. I do like the pulsation sometimes if I'm dealing with really severe neuropathy or somebody that's really below baseline, and you know what I'm doing scares the heck out of them. That's like a really gentle stimulus. But in combination, it's just a way to mix it up. You know, your muscles get used to anything over a period of time. And I know a lot of people are looking for, well, what preset or what combo is best for my condition. But like I was sort of saying earlier, it depends on you personally and your goals. If Kim and Deb went to the gym and we hired a you know, we wanted to look at a program to improve our bone density. I'm just going to use this as an example. And we hire 5 different trainers to give us an exercise program. We're going to give 5 completely different programs based on what the trainer likes and what equipment they're comfortable with. So, you know, fitness and getting to the end goal, there's lots of different ways to exercise and be active. So that's kind of more of a personal choice, but the machine and the functions, you know, turning on more and going longer, it is going to give you some additional benefits. But if you're looking for those big gains like weight loss or strength, it is very much also what you're doing, regardless of what movement style you're using. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I teach oscillating because more people have that type of movement, if that makes sense. I'm going to jump to Marianne next because she's the first one that came up on my window here. And then I'll get to you, Amy, I promise. Hi, Marianne.
Hi, I have a question. I have lymphedema.
Yes.
And
yes.
I want to know, when you're using the plate, do you have to wear compression?
Oh, I'm so glad you brought this question up. You don't have to do anything unless your mother tells you to. But what I will say, compressions, it's a very common question I get. It depends. I would suggest if you are severe and you know you've got some pretty high-end ones that you need to wear for your exercises now, I would start that way. But this is going to be so unscientific, you guys are going to laugh. It really depends on you. So I know how much of a pain in the ass it is to get those things off. So I would love it if you didn't use them, or you could do a little bit before bed and, once they're off. But if you're going to take them off just to shake for 10 minutes, just to put them back on, you're going to hate me very quickly. So some do a combination. If you're just starting out and your doctor has said you need to wear these when you're active, I think you should start with them. But many over time find, there was just a lady in our group yesterday, she said they keep falling off. Is that normal? So she's lost, right? And for some, they find it's painful if they don't. So you really kind of got to gauge it with you. I would suggest I'm about 50-50. I got about half that are diligent and they have to wear it on their machine. And I've got half that prefer not to, or have progressed to, a combination. It really depends on if you put them on at the time.
The reason I asked is I had heard a doctor from England who was a specialist in lymphedema, and he had said if you're using compression and you really see no significant improvement, then don't wear them. And I don't have a lot of pain. My swelling is mainly above my knees.
Okay.
And over the years, I've used compression. I have a pump.
Yeah.
It really hasn't changed. It's just been status quo.
Okay.
So that's what, but the only reason I was wearing them when I exercise was I was always afraid I was doing something wrong if I didn't.
We live in this society, 10 years ago, I felt I needed permission for everything. And now nobody would be feeling better if I had to wait for the study to come out. So no, I get into this really commonly with doctors because, if your doctor has told you that you should be wearing them and I say, do what you want, sometimes we
yeah.
But most of these doctors aren't spending 14 to 16 hours a day on a vibration machine. They're certainly not doing any nutritional consulting. And I'm sorry, but half the doctors I work with have worse backs.
Don't know anything.
I don't want to say that. There's some really, really good
doctors.
Well,
I will say it.
But I always used to think when I was working trade shows and these things, I had to look fit. Nobody's going to walk up to me if I was my 250-pound self saying that this is a good weight loss tool, because I don't look the part, right? So if I go into a doctor and he's throwing me the food guide, I don't even want to talk to you, right? Do you know what lipedema is? So but yeah, it's really a mix. And even Dr. Herbst in the initial interview I've done with her, and we've had a few conversations, it really depends. If it's a post-surgery situation and there's reasons that they've recommended you wear them, wait and see. On a vibration machine, if there's a recent incision or something, the compression. No. But sometimes I find post-surgery, they're not that comfortable either.
Actually, I got this from a botched varicose vein surgery.
Okay.
So, but I lost my train of thought here now. So
yeah.
I find that if I don't have to have the compression on, I exercise more because I don't have the pain of putting them on. Then I get tired of wearing them all day. Yeah. So then I stop,
I think you'd probably be fine. No one's ever hurt themselves using a machine not wearing their compressions. A lot of times people don't know until they do try. So if it hurts, wear them. If it doesn't hurt, it really depends on you. I do know, if I was coaching you for the first time, I would love to maybe try for a week with them, skills, and then maybe try for a week without them, and give it a good test. But many of my ladies, I like to try and get before they go to bed, if they're doing a little bit, just try and get one, because many of them with restless legs and other things too. Right? And I wonder sometimes, I know they're helping with the lymph, but I wonder sometimes if they're contributing to other issues. So I like you to be au naturel and give it a try.
What I always heard was if you don't wear the compression, then the lymph isn't going to move and it's going to get stuck there anyhow.
Well, the machine, is so good at moving that maybe it's making up the difference. Who knows?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
No problem. And again, not black and white. It really is a personal decision.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks. Not a problem. I'm hoping Amy pops up here miraculously. If not, I'm going to have to.
I'm here.
There she is. Amy, I love your spelling. My girlfriend spells it the same way.
Thank you.
How's
Hey,
it going?
good. I've just tried the big ones that you stand on that have the bars that you hold on to.
Yep.
And I get headaches when I get on. Is
Yep.
that a normal thing, or should I try sitting if
No,
I get?
it's normal if you aren't bending your knees enough.
Okay.
So the tendency, the ones with the handles, a lot of people, what's the difference? You know, if you look back in time 10 years ago, all vibration machines had handles. It's just kind of what the design was. And most people in those days looking at them were elderly, lacked mobility, and they needed the handles to hang on to. I can tell you how many gyms I've walked into where those handles are collapsed because guys think they're going to do like, you know, upper body lifts, and they're really, believe it or not, depending on the machine that you're on, most of those handles back in the day were to stop the headpiece from rattling because the design isn't as cool as anything that attaches to these machines are going to move. It's just the way that it is. And the handles sometimes restrict, you know, some of the stuff I'm doing, you have limited motion. But with those styles, there's two things that commonly people will do. And it's standing really tall because you got these handles to hang on to. And if you're short, you know, it feels more comfortable to be locked legs and not bend your arms. I don't know if that makes sense. But the other thing is really wide feet. So if you're standing really wide and your legs are barely bent, all the movement, it's like your pendulum. It's all moving to the head. So first adjustment, bring your feet at least hip width apart and bend the knees a bit more. If you're standing really tall, and I'll do it on the machine so you can hear it. So if you're really wide and my legs are locked, you can hear it in my voice. And then even just bending my knees, like I can't feel it above here, but the taller I stand, the more rigid I become and the more the movement comes to the head. And because we're women and we think it's good for us, we stick it and we stay for 10 minutes because we think it, and we resist and we fight it. And when we get sensation into the neck and the shoulders as a woman, the vibration, this is our weakness. This is our stress. This is where our bra straps and our purses. So when we get the stimulation in this area, Amy, we tend to resist and fight it. That's just what our body does. So you're probably doing these things without realizing, but bring the feet hip width apart, bend the knees just slightly. I can guarantee it'll be about 90% better if that's what you have been doing. If it's not, you're probably on a really slow speed. The really slow speeds are really choppy. So whatever that machine, if it's got upright handles, it's probably got 99 or 100 speeds or something like that. Bring it up to the 75, 80 range, feet closer, and I think you'll find a much more pleasant experience.
Okay. And the neurologist, when you're talking with them, I do have neural issues.
Okay.
Or do they have any other advice for neural patients that?
What's the neural issues? Do you mind
I just had brain surgery, Chiari. So I'm wondering sometimes if it's not that.
Is how recent?
It's been like 10 years.
Okay, no. You know what could be happening? Because I do deal with a lot of brain injury, spinal rehab. I deal with a lot of paralysis. If those neural pathways are improving, and this is really common with neuropathy, but if you've had a brain injury, sometimes even with a concussion, there can be swelling that you know is still dissipating years later. What you're experiencing probably more so is because there's such a vast increase in circulation, which is a good thing. Your blood is more oxygenated, more rich. In a roundabout way, it could be slight improvement in function. How long are you using the machine when you're using it? I'm curious.
Not very long, just probably 2 to 3 minutes.
2 to 3 minutes. That's good. I think you probably could go longer, but I'd like to see you get comfortable with some of these adjustments. Where the neural stimulation comes in is in a few levels, and there's a lot of science about the neural advantages of using, you know, proprioception, entrainment. There's all kinds of different things, but I deal with a lot of stroke where there's been brain damage too, and the deficiencies are there. But you tend to be, when you have a head injury, you're that much more sensitive to the head vibration. I recognize that. Sitting on it is not going to make you feel better unless you sit forward. But as far as, you know, is there any particular exercises that you're supposed to be doing, you know, for
No.
proprioception, or is there any home exercises you're supposed to be doing?
No. Just
No?
no arms above the head.
No arms
So-
above the head. So listen to that too. For any of you dealing with neuro issues, spinal issues, sometimes it's not the exercises we're doing or we're supposed to be doing, but usually there's ones that they've recommended you don't do. Well, don't do them on the machine for sure. But I would maybe quite, you know, is there anything that your therapist, like, is there certain, usually when I'm dealing, especially with my kids that have neuro issues, there's usually certain protocols that they want them doing as home-based exercises, stretches, balance things. And those are the types of things I teach the families to do on the machine, because it takes less time on the machine. But I would say if the worst you're experiencing is a headache, I'd first be curious to see if we can resolve that with how you're using the machine. And Amy, maybe what I'll do is I'll invite you to send me a direct message, and because I'll get lost in the sea of people here today, and follow up with me when you've had a chance to do that. If that doesn't resolve it, I'd like to have another conversation with you on me, if that's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Because there's so much you can do with these, but if you're dealing, oh, I can tell you some of the doctors I've spooked with the things that I've done in clinics, but because I'm not a doctor and I'm not coming from a medical place, sometimes my experience with neurological issues, they look at me, well, how is that possible? I ran a studio for 15 years. People don't always tell you what's going on. I have had people lose speech on my machine. I've had people black out on my machine. They think I'm like this genie. Well, I'm not going to tell you what's going on with me. Okay. So, you know, if there's a neural issue, there's so many ways that you can benefit from this machine, but I'd be happy to share some more information with your care providers so that we can all be on the same page.
Okay, thanks so much.
Well, no problem. No problem. Thank you for waiting. Does anyone else? Anyone? I hope we're not having more audio issues. Okay. If anyone else has a question, I would ask that you raise your hand now. And if anyone is just joining us and has not had a chance to enter the draw, please make a comment. I've had my little one writing names and putting them in a hat here so we can get to the draw part here. And as I said, if you do want to enter for the machine, I need you to be in Canada, the US, or the UK. I'll be drawing that here shortly. If you're joining me late, today is about lipedema awareness. I am proud to be supported today by one of my favorite equipment providers, which is Life Pro. I am a big fan of their vibration plates, but they've got a bunch of wonderful tools, not only to help my community, but many of you out there are probably aware of them already. And if you are dealing with a medical deficiency, a lot of my sessions tend to lean into that wheelhouse because so many of my clients are dealing with deficiencies. So, you know, there's never.
Hello.
Oh, hello. Hello, Marianne.
Oh, okay. I was wondering, has anybody heard anything about my brother?
Your brother? Who's your brother?
Yeah, I know, told me. I might be, I'm not sure. But anyhow, yeah.
I think she's on the phone and she's not on mute.
Because I talked to Susan last night.
Marianne.
And she said he was going to have a...
Marianne, hello.
Oh.
Can I move it? Marianne, are you hearing me, hun?
Hold on a minute. Yeah.
You just might want to mute yourself, hun.
I must have made a mistake. I don't have a question.
Oh, that's okay, honey. But I thought you were asking me about your brother, but I think you're
no,
talking.
No, I'm on another phone.
Just go ahead.
I'm sorry.
If you don't mind just hitting mute.
Okay.
Appreciate that. All right. Anyone else? This is your last chance to ask me questions. FYI, my son is graduating today. Can you believe that I have an 18-year-old kid? Pretty proud of my little boy. So yes, last night I was out at graduation, cap and gown, and today we're getting ready for the rest of it. So if there's no more questions at this time, I certainly want to thank everyone for joining me today. If this is the first time you're hearing about lipedema, there's a lot of information within my group, but as I stated earlier, you will need to answer some qualifying questions before you can get into that group. If you are part of that group and you're looking for something specific, chances are I've probably done a video on it within the group. So check out the media files for all of my videos. And if you are suspecting that you might have this condition, not sure if you have this condition, know that most of the people that I am dealing with are undiagnosed or misdiagnosed in some cases, and you do not need to wait to start taking care of yourself and start improving your situation. It's not as commonly known as it should be. It's one of the biggest tragedies going as far as I'm concerned. But unfortunately, until the awareness is a little bit more widespread, I think it's going to be a long time before this condition is accepted and recognized walking through the door. So as I said, 1 in 9 people are affected with lipedema. And, even if you did have a diagnosis, sometimes that you go to that insurance company and, if you went to an insurance company, I brought this up in a session the other day and said, I want to buy a vibration machine to treat my lipedema, you'd get crickets or laughter on the other end. Most of them don't know what lipedema is. Most of them don't know what a vibration machine is. So how you're positioning this with your insurance companies is probably much more durable medical expenses or home exercise equipment. If they don't have a code for it, it doesn't tend to exist. So many of you I know are struggling with just your day-to-day symptoms. Many of these treatments, there's no point in waiting for that diagnosis. It may or may not improve your situation, but many of these home therapies, whether it's a vibration plate, red light is another thing that we talk about in my group, as well as air compression. For those of you that can afford and have access and good coverage to get the flexi touches and the lymphopresses and even some of the medical grade vibration plates, that's amazing. But I'm here to help the masses. The vast majority of my customers, and part of the reason I fell in love with LifePro early on was when I started this group, I found so many of you were using their plates. So I picked up the phone one day and said, hey, you know what? A lot of my people are using your vibration machines. Who are you? And I want to know you. And we've had a love affair ever since. LifePro is very supportive of my ramblings. I do lives for them on Mondays on a variety of different topics. And if you haven't seen me there, you can find those details on my Deb's Vibe page, debsvibe.com. If you're looking for my general site, please subscribe to me there to get general access to stuff. And for those of you that are not a member and feel you may have lipedema, lymphedema, anything related to these fat disorders, my personal group is Vibration for Fat Disorders on Facebook. And I also have another group, Vibration for Cerebral Palsy, and some of you are actually in both. So those are my two give back groups. There is no cost to getting access to the information there. But if you did want a one-on-one, if you're looking at bigger goals, perhaps you're looking for surgery support, I do offer one-on-ones to my clients in my group. If you're one of my group members, because you've read everything there and you know most of what I'm talking about anyways, I do charge $40 US for a 1-hour consultation if you are within my group. If you are a medical office, if you are a wellness clinic, if you're looking for business support, I do offer business support. It's a little bit different than my personal support. We're going to set you up with some protocols. I want to know a bit more about the type of clients and what you're treating. I am not a doctor. I do not diagnose. I do not treat. But I have been 15 years hands-on with people like you on these machines. There is not a medical condition on the face of this earth I have not supported at least twice or 3 times in some cases. So, there may or may not be a protocol or a study to support the condition that you are dealing with, but I certainly have the experience to give you some direction. So thank you very much for joining me. I have my, hang on here. I just want to make sure that I got no more questions in here that I didn't miss. Again, last chance. If I did miss a question, and I didn't see it because we got quite a few comments here, please voice your concern now or your question. I have all of my names recorded here. Just making sure I've got everybody. And then I'm going to have my wee one make a draw here. All right. And if you are not here, what I am going to need, this will be recorded and posted by tomorrow for those of you that were unable to join. I don't know if you are still with me here. Let's see. Okay, Cindy O'Herrick, am I saying that right? Cindy with an I, are you still here? Perhaps not. Cindy O'Herrick, you just won a Life Pro waiver vibration plate. So I didn't make it a requirement that you had to be here because I know there are all kinds of lipedema awareness events, but I did make it a condition that you had to comment to be entered to win. So Cindy is my lucky winner today. I'm just gonna make sure I get this spelling right. And for anyone else that has joined me today, thank you very much for listening to my ramblings. Sometimes you may have questions after the fact, you know, after you get a chance to absorb some of this. Never hesitate to drop me a message in the group or do a post. I will get this up and feel free to add comments once this is an actual video on my Facebook page. But congratulations to Cindy O'Herrick. I will reach out to you and arrange to get this sent to you depending on where you're at. For everyone else that joined me, thank you so much for listening to my ramblings. I will be back live Monday on Life Pro's page at 4:30 Eastern time, as I am every Monday for a variety of different topics. And I will also be doing a giveaway one day next week, I think on some weights. So if there's a new product launch, sometimes I help Life Pro out with those, and there may be a giveaway next week. So find out about those things on my debsvibe.com. I invite you to my groups if it's a place that you should be. And for the rest of you, have a fantastic weekend. And thank you so much for your continued support with me. It means a lot. I'm not going to get choked up. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kim, Amy, Tammy, Karen, everyone I see here, thank you so much for being generous with your time today.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Feel better.